Hey all, Taves here, back playing some more Planet Zoo, and welcome back to Tiguidou Zoo. So we are continuing in this episode with the bear habitat that we started, the grizzly bear habitat that we started in the last episode. If you missed that one, we created this big kind of bear cave in that episode with a sort of underground viewing area for the guests to check out the bears in their kind of natural habitat in the cave. So in this one, we're filling out the rest of most of the rest of the habitat, but there's still going to be one little bit that we'll save for a tour episode. So we'll do a little tour episode of this as well, probably coming up soon. So first of all, I'm starting off with doing a little bit of groundwork. So I wanted to have one of the features of this habitat is going to be that it has a waterfall running through it. So I want that water to come out of the habitat and continue on through down to the bottom of the hill. If you followed this series for a while, you'll know that Tiguidou is set on a hill. All of it is kind of sloping down to the bottom of what's supposed to be the bottom of a quarry. So there is going to be kind of a flooded section at the bottom of the hill that all of the water runs towards. So yeah, just saw me putting a little channel in that's going to be used to channel that water away. We're putting some of the fence in. What I started off doing here was putting the fence too close to the path. I wanted to make sure there was a bit of a separation there. So I think I started off using the chainmail, the mesh fencing, and ended up using the electrical fencing. One of the things, obviously, that I've got to be careful of with this habitat is that bears are very, very good climbers. So need to make sure that I'm stopping them from climbing out of the habitat. So we've got this upper viewing area that we put in the last episode. This is above the cave. As I've said many times in Tiguidou, everything in Tiguidou is all about maximising the amount of space. We started with one of the scenario maps, so it's really important that I use the space as much as I possibly can. So we have got that viewing area that we're looking at here with the path is looking down on top of the cave, so technically there's guests actually underneath that window and underneath where the bears can be walking around up there. You'll also notice that I have used a couple of the guest cabins end up getting added into this episode. You'll see those when we do the tour. So there's one of them at the back there. This is the same thing that we've got overlooking the tapir habitat. So we have got this little raised section, lots of rock work going on in this episode as well. Lots of this kind of breaking up of the slope. I've cleared out a whole bunch of the trees. You saw me do that in the beginning of the last episode, and I've got to try and get all those trees back in again, or most of those trees back in again. So it's both playing a sort of combination in this of trying to make it look like it's natural, but also look like it's doing enough to be fake. So some of this is supposed to be the natural landscape, so I'm happy to use the Taiga rocks here rather than the faux rocks, for example. And that's where the waterfall is starting. So you can see I've got a little a path up there that slopes over the top, and there's going to be some more guest routing up there and some extra things going on up there. I do have a bridge. So if you remember from the previous episode, we had this little bridge that goes underneath where the bears can go underneath the path. So that was me just putting in my own little kind of fake fence to go across the top of that. Because obviously if you put a barrier over the top of a bridge like that, when you log in and log out, that barrier will just extend all the way to the ground. So you have to make your own fake one. Lots of time taken in this habitat, making sure that, as I said, that it's all sort of climb proof. So I created these very similar to what I did in Wolf Creek back in episode like 4 or something that we put in the wolf habitat. So got lots of these sort of implied climb barriers to stop the bears from just climbing up and over the top of that. You're getting very little of this in this episode, very little in the recording, but my goodness me, this takes a long time to do. One of those things that you regret and having both made the sort of design decision to do it, but then also all of the different variations in shape and slope and all of that sort of thing add to the effort of doing this. So you can see that I've got to come around corners, and I've got to go up and down slopes and all of that sort of stuff. So it really takes a long time, giving you a little bit of a flavour of it in this episode, just to get the message across about how this is difficult. I guess if I'd done this differently, in reality, you could just use the barrier, the non-climbable barriers, but it just doesn't look great. It never looks like a bear couldn't just kind of reach over the top of that and climb out. So here is the start of the waterfall. So this is the trick that I've used a few times to create a waterfall. So you create a series of little glass ponds or glass sections, and you lower the ground at them. You can sort of see it stepping down. So obviously this looks really crap at this stage, but once you've got the water in there and you've got a whole bunch of rock work and terrain and all that sort of stuff and foliage all around it, then it all kind of comes together. It's like you end up with a fairly small amount of water, but I think the aesthetic works better when you've got real water in there. You get the reflections off the water and stuff. So this is the waterfall coming down the hill, going underneath that path out of the habitat, and will continue on into I'm not sure actually with that being continuing in the next episode. I haven't quite decided. There's one last bit of the habitat for the bears that I wanted to do. At the point of recording this voiceover, I have already built that extra bit of the habitat, but it's probably just a little bit too much to get into this episode. So I think what we might do is have that last little detail in a third episode on this grizzly bear habitat, and then I'll probably just come back and do that little detail or that section, and then a broader tour where we walk around and we look at it. And there's quite a few different bits to tour actually going to be coming up soon. So I think the next episode is just going to be probably like a general detailing episode, because I've got quite a few little bits and pieces that are not big enough for their own episode, but have ended up in sort of a little a folder full of recordings where I've just kind of gone, these would be good for just like an overall episode of sort of detailing. So yeah, here I am now filling in. As you can see, I'm trying to use all the rocks. I've got those series of sort of stepping pools that go down the hill, and now I want to try and fill a lot of that in. It's sort of okay that it doesn't look, it looks way better by the time I finish all the rock work, but again, this is quite sort of it's sort of okay that this is quite fake looking in some places. So yeah, because it's not necessarily supposed to be natural. So one of the tricks you can do with this is, so I've created a sort of series of slopes, and I just want to hit. So I'm using the tops of the fountains there to emphasize the points of where the water would be hitting the rocks, just to give that kind of cascading effect. And then if you take one of the jet pieces and angle it back like that, push it right back into the ground, you can create enough of a sort of spray. And then really I just want to look at where that spray is hitting bits of rock and give it some splash effect, if you know what I mean. They're never particularly well optimized, I feel like, the water effects. So they are something that you have to be a little bit careful about using too many of them, especially when you've got too many, you've got so many pieces around them. So yeah, you can see there I'm just sort of adding in the points at which that water hits the ground or hits the other rock. Obviously this is all looking a bit crazy because we're at 4 times speed, but if you look at this in normal speed, it actually looks really good. So there's a little channel. It looks like the water is sort of carved out its own little channel. There's another point at which it's hitting the rock, and then it's obviously making its way down into that actual little pond itself. Just adding a few bits and pieces in here. I think I went back actually at some point and changed these little ponds of water to be in rough water rather than, I think they look like there's still water there. But it's all okay. Actually, it's not particularly viewable. The actual ponds themselves are not particularly viewable from the guest level. You can see you can see these little trickle points, where the water's dropping a layer. So there's another one going down. Pretty simple, doesn't need loads of detail there. Using a few of the little stalactite pieces just to break this up. The bears actually, unfortunately, can't really traverse any of this, which is a bit of a shame. Would be really cool to have them be able to interact with some of these things. I have never actually, and I'm not probably ever really going to get the chance to, certainly not in this zoo, but I don't think I've built a habitat that, I think by the time the diving mechanic came in for the bears, I'd already built my previous grizzly bear habitat, or my previous bear habitat. So I don't think I'm going to get the space ever, certainly not in Tiguidou, to do a diving one that they kind of dive down into. So as ever in Planet Zoo, when you actually start to kind of put the foliage in and start to ruffle the ground textures up, is where it really starts to make a difference. One of the interesting things I noticed about this, I'd never really noticed it before, but the grass pieces don't have collision. So some of the pieces I've used previously and sunk them right into the ground. You have a collision, so they block off a whole bunch of the traversable area. So I think this piece, for example, does that. But if you use the grass, they don't do that, and the animals can just walk over the top of it. So I'm using basically the places where I'm cutting down the traversable area, I'm using around the real edges, and then I'm trying to use a lot of the lighter grass pieces sunken into the ground just to soften everything off. So there's that little viewing point coming together. I have to say I don't know when we got these, but the creosote, is it creosote bushes? And then I think we always had one of those, and then we've now got a few other variations of it, and a sort of dried one, that like my new favourite bush pieces. As ever, trying to wrangle with the enrichment items to stop them from doing that stupid thing where they change all the ground. So there we go. Check in to see it's all okay. Actually, pretty much, I'm pretty happy with that still. Check to see that they can traverse a lot of the area. I'm pretty happy with it. They can use all of the enrichment items in the habitat, so that's good. This top section of the habitat has got a slightly weird thing going on with it, where there is an escapable part. So if you are looking at this, maybe I'm not sure about if I'll be able to upload this to the workshop, because as with most of my stuff, it's so bespoke, and it's so bespoke to the specifics of the terrain. I think I've talked about this before, but because Tiguidou is all set on a slope, very rarely do I end up building a habitat that is not really sloping like this one is. And it's sort of by design, really, because not only is it sloping down a hill, but I want to make sure that as much of the animal in the habitat is viewable. So I think it's a thing that zoos do a lot, is that they'll make sure that even if the animal's at the back of a habitat, you can still see them because it's all on a slope. But what I think that will mean is if I upload this to the workshop, then it will be, I don't know how practical it'll be used for use by anybody else, but we'll see. But if you're looking at this on the workshop, and there's an escapable part of the habitat, there's a sort of, there kind of has to be, in order to be able to get the guest gate where I wanted it, and to have, where the keeper gate, and have the animals look like they can walk over the top of all of this habitat. Technically, the guest gate, to the staff entrance, is underneath a piece of traversable land for the animals. So we're coming right to the end of this one. Just putting a little bit of extra details in here and there. As I said, there will be one more episode on this. We'll be doing a bunch of detailing, just giving this extra little bit of path coming down. And there'll be an extra inside space for the bears to shelter and be taken out of the habitat and all that sort of stuff. So this is supposed to be just a kind of runoff area. And a little bit of detail. Actually, we're not at the end. We've got a little bit more. Sorry, there is a little bit more. There is a little bit more of the waterfall coming down. Again, I think this turns out really well, and is a good little tip for how you can like if you look how much of the water I'm actually hiding away with the rock there. So like it ends up being a really small little pool. It's a great way of doing it. If you're looking at that going, hang on, you've turned the glass off. Again, that is one of those things you can do with the free build mod. You don't have to do that. I could have probably kept all the actual glass piece barriers in there and hidden it away. It would have still worked. I could have still just done it. I just preferred not having to wrangle round the barrier. I'm trying to get Tiguidou done as much as I possibly can. We have got Planet Coaster 2 coming up. I was stupid enough to miss the... I think I just missed the invite from Frontier to take part in the previous round of stuff. So hopefully I will be making content on that soon, whenever the next thing comes up. I've just been really busy at work and things at the moment, so apologies for that. So if you like this one, please don't forget to like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. We will be doing a tour. You will get to see this properly in the next episode. We'll walk around. Actually, it might not be the next episode, as I said. I might just do a detailing episode. You'll see it at some point. You know what I'm like. It just, things happen when they happen. I've come to terms with that. Hopefully, if you're still watching, you have as well, guys. Very much appreciate you. Thank you for watching. My name is Toves. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.